Finally, a skyscraper that is truly out of this world. Imagine a daily commute that involves parachuting down to Earth. An American architectural firm has plans that would allow you to do exactly that, with a skyscraper suspended from an orbiting asteroid. New York City-based Cloud's architecture office has previously come up with incredible plans for a Mars house and a Cloud City. Their newest design, introduced in February, is called Analemma Tower. Analemma will be powered by space-based solar panels, with fresh water provided by condensation from clouds and rain. The water would be filtered and recycled in a semi-closed loop system. Suspended from the asteroid by strong cables, the tower would follow a geosynchronous orbit, tracing a figure-8 pattern over the northern and southern hemispheres once per day. This eccentric orbit would allow it to move slowest as it passes over New York City. Residents would parachute down to work as the orbit slows. The tower would be divided into a business area at the bottom, residential in the middle, and worship towards the top. At the apex would be a space for burials, while surface transfer points would be at the bottom. Construction would take place in Dubai, which has a proven record in the construction of tall buildings, at 1/5 the cost of New York City. Say no to safe spaces on YouTube. Support Tomo News at patreon.com/Tomo News. Excited for what the future holds for us? Keep watching. Solar-powered floating farms could help feed the world. Barcelona-based company Forward Thinking Architecture has developed a solar-powered floating farm system that could ease growing global food demand. Smart Floating Farms, or SFF, was inspired by traditional grid-shaped fish farms in Asia. Each SFF is 200 meters wide and 350 meters long, roughly the size of 6 football fields. They can be connected to form a cluster of modules. Photovoltaic panels are installed on the top level to harvest sunlight for electricity, and it has rainwater collectors for irrigation purposes. Other renewable energy technologies such as micro-wind turbines may also be added. The second level is a greenhouse for the vegetables, which are grown without soil under the hydroponic system. The plants receive natural light from the skylight opening. The ground level is used as a fish farm on the open sea and features a fish egg hatchery, a slaughterhouse, and a storage room for the fish. By using farms in nearby waters as a food source, the SFF can help reduce reliance on imported food. All the modules are centrally controlled by software via cloud technology. The production data will be analyzed and can be used to make comparisons on the food needs for specific cities. Each SFF is estimated to have a maximum production of just over 8 tons of vegetables and slightly over 1.7 tons of fish per year. The floating farms are ideal for densely populated cities near coastal areas, such as Los Angeles, New York, Tokyo, Singapore, and Hong Kong. As the world's population increases, food demand is expected to increase 50% by 2030 and 70% by 2050.
Is locking prisoners up enough to rehabilitate them, or does more have to be done? While the United States continues to discuss ways to reform the nation's justice system, some have put thought into how to transform its very architecture. During a workshop in a San Francisco prison, inmates were asked to reimagine their jail cells. Like the Freedom Room design project in Italy, inmates took the average 3-by-4 meter long prison cell and created a new type of living space for the incarcerated. The room includes cabinets for personal items as well as an enclosed bathroom to give prisoners some privacy. Inmates have also proposed building waterfalls, computer labs, and a healing center in prisons. A design idea called Prischool incorporates an urban prison in Brooklyn, New York, with a school of criminology, a pre-release center, and a community center. The complex will merge areas of the prison with facilities used by students at the school as well as by members of the outside community. Some of you may wonder why nicer living quarters would actually help rehabilitate a person, or if inmates even deserve it. The concept follows a model used in countries such as Sweden and Norway. There, incarcerated individuals live in better conditions than in the US. But why do this for a convicted felon? Well, currently nearly 70% of state prisoners reoffend after leaving their incarceration. In Sweden, that figure is around 40%. So the idea is that there will be a lower overall crime rate as rehabilitated prisoners won't reoffend and will successfully re-enter society. But what do you think? Is it as simple as locking convicts up in a cell and throwing away the key? Or is there a better way?
TV show gives a glimpse of life on Mars. The first home designed for humans to live in on Mars will be unveiled at an exhibition in the UK on November 10th. The exhibition of the show home ties in with a National Geographic docudrama that imagines colonists from Earth living on the Red Planet. The house would be constructed with Martian soil. The soil would be microwaved until it forms a brick. The bricks would be used to build the walls of an igloo-shaped dome, which would be around 10 feet thick. Recycled spacecraft parts, including a double airlocked entrance, would be used as the front door. Experts believe the dome would be able to withstand the Martian environment, including extremely low temperatures, micrometeorite impacts, a thin atmosphere, and cosmic radiation. An underground area would contain facilities such as a dining hall and laboratory. The colony would expand module by module until it forms a city, termed Olympus Town. The exhibition at the Royal Observatory Greenwich in London coincides with the launch of the 6-part docudrama Mars, which tells the story of an attempt to colonize Mars in the year 2033. Say no to safe spaces on YouTube. Support Tomo News at patreon.com/Tomo News. Design for another major London skyscraper revealed. Plans have been unveiled for the construction of a skyscraper in the City of London, which would match the height of the city's current tallest building. A skyscraper to be named One Undershaft will become one of the tallest buildings in the historic centre known as the City of London, which is north of the River Thames. The 73-floor structure is intended to provide office space. It will host a public viewing gallery and restaurant at the top of the building and a public space at the bottom. The building faces London's current tallest building, the Shard, across the river. Developers say the building will rise to the same height as the Shard, at 309.6 meters. The official completion date of the building has not yet been announced. However, plans are to put the building into use within the next decade. Chicago hopes to build floating solar-powered bike path. Mayor Rahm Emanuel is hoping to build a floating bike path along the Chicago River in an effort to make the city the most bike-friendly city in the U.S. The bike path would be built on steel-reinforced concrete pontoons, which are secured with pilings driven into the riverbed. Each 82-foot by 12-foot segment would be equipped with a solar panel. More segments can be connected to extend the bike path. Energy generated from the solar panels will be used to power lighting fixtures. The path is also embedded with a heating conduit to prevent icing on the surface during cold weather. It also has retractable awnings that can roll out to provide shelter for riders when it's raining or snowing. The proposed bike path would float on the Chicago River between Horner and Pingtom parks. It would be free of cars, allowing cyclists to ride on it any time of the day. Each mile of the bike path might cost between $5 to $10 million. Architecture firm Second Shore, which put forward the idea, hopes to build a half-mile stretch of the proposed bike path in a pilot project by the summer of 2017.
Future luxury apartments could have balconies big enough for personal flying cars. Ever wondered what life would be like when flying cars become an everyday mode of transport? Canadian engineer Charles Bombardier and Indian industrial designer Ashish Tolkar hope to one day develop luxury apartments with landing pads for personal flyers. An imagined luxury apartment aims to help make personal flying vehicles become commonplace. This new kind of residential building would see vertically aligned landing pads accommodate the vehicles. Residents would not necessarily need to own such a vehicle, but could simply order one, much like a taxi or ride-sharing service. When detecting an inbound vehicle, the balcony could prepare for landing by lowering the rail guard automatically. Air traffic control systems would be necessary to keep the city skies orderly and safe. Although the idea is still in its infancy, Bombardier and Tolkar believe it may not be long before we see apartment buildings built to code for personal flyers.
Pipe dream no more. Imagine this, a fully automated floating city free from government meddling, with no laws, regulations, or taxes. Once just a libertarian fantasy, it's now just a few years from becoming reality. On January 13th, French Polynesia agreed to host the world's first floating city, or seastead, within its protected waters. The seastead aims to be a special economic zone that will develop innovative technologies for solar power, aquaculture, and wind energy. Design-wise, the floating city will consist of interconnected square and pentagonal platforms made from reinforced concrete. Platforms will have a variety of structures, from residential and commercial to green spaces, with pricing per square foot on par with major cities like New York or London. The project's initial islands will cost a combined total estimated at $10 million to $50 million and will house a few dozen people. With rising sea levels threatening many Pacific islands, seastead advocates believe floating cities may be a solution. The presence of floating communities could also spark recovery for the region's dying corals by slightly lowering water temperatures in their vicinity. The Seasteading Institute will have to complete environmental and economic feasibility studies, but construction on the project could start as early as next year.